Heavenly Stories.
The Sea of Galilee, a vast and beautiful body of water, was typically a place of tranquility. But on this particular night, it had transformed into a raging monster. The disciples, seasoned fishermen accustomed to the whims of the sea, found themselves in a desperate struggle for survival. A sudden and ferocious storm had descended upon them, catching them completely off guard. The wind, a violent force, howled and tore at the sails, while the waves, like hungry giants, crashed over the bow of their small fishing boat. They were a tiny vessel in a world of chaos. For hours, they strained at the oars, their muscles screaming with exhaustion. Each wave was a new assault, a test of their endurance and courage. Water poured into the boat, and they bailed it out with a frantic, rhythmic urgency. Fear, a cold and suffocating presence, had taken hold of their hearts. They were alone in the vast, churning darkness, and with each passing moment, their hope of making it through the night dwindled. They knew this storm was different, it was beyond their ability to control or even comprehend. Then, in the midst of their despair, a figure appeared on the horizon, walking toward them on the surface of the water. Their exhausted minds couldn't process the sight. It was a man, moving with an eerie calm, as if the raging sea were solid ground. The disciples, already terrified by the storm, now succumbed to a new, supernatural fear. They cried out in unison, their voices thin and reedy against the roar of the wind, believing they were seeing a ghost. It was an apparition of the night, a phantom of the storm come to haunt them. But then, a voice, clear and full of authority, cut through the tempest. "Take courage. It is I, don't be afraid." They knew that voice. It was Jesus. And as the sound of his words reached them, a fragile thread of hope was woven back into the fabric of their fear. He was with them, even in the midst of the most terrifying storm. While most of the disciples were simply overwhelmed with relief and awe at what they saw, one of them saw it as more than just a miracle. Peter, impulsive and passionate by nature, saw it as an invitation. His heart, which had been a fortress of fear just moments before, was now a surging tide of faith. "Lord, if it's you," he called out, his voice a mix of desperate hope and profound belief, "tell me to come to you on the water." Jesus' response was simple and direct, "Come." That single word was all Peter needed. He didn't hesitate. He swung his leg over the side of the boat, his mind focused entirely on the Lord. The moment his feet touched the water, an impossible sensation filled him. The surface, which should have been soft and yielding, was firm and solid. He took his first step, then his second. It was a step into the unknown, a leap of faith that defied every law of nature he had ever known. He was walking on the waves, a man defying gravity, his eyes locked on the one who made it possible. For those brief, breathtaking moments, Peter was a living testament to the power of unwavering faith. Peter's triumphant walk was a beautiful but fleeting moment. As he advanced toward his master, a new sensation began to creep into his awareness. The wind, which had been a backdrop to his faith, now became a hostile presence. It howled in his ears, and the waves, which he had been stepping on, now looked like angry, towering walls of water. He was no longer just a man on a journey of faith, he was a man in the midst of a violent storm. His focus shifted from the serene face of Jesus to the terrifying reality of his surroundings. The instant he took his eyes off Jesus, the faith that had held him upright began to unravel. Doubt, like a cold wave, washed over him. The wind felt too strong, the waves too high. He began to sink. The solid ground beneath his feet turned into a treacherous liquid. Panic seized him, and he cried out, no longer with a request, but with a desperate plea, "Lord, save me." The very thing that had allowed him to walk, his unwavering faith, was now gone, replaced by the crushing weight of fear and the logic of the world. As soon as Peter's cry escaped his lips, Jesus' hand was there. He reached out and caught the sinking disciple, his grip firm and reassuring. He didn't allow Peter to sink beneath the waves, he lifted him back up. But as he pulled him from the water, Jesus' words were not a rebuke but a question, a gentle and powerful lesson for all who would later hear this story. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" The lesson was not about the failure, but about the source of the failure. It wasn't the storm that made Peter sink, it was his doubt. As long as his eyes were fixed on Jesus, the storm was irrelevant. But the moment his focus shifted to the physical dangers around him, his faith faltered, and he was consumed by fear. Jesus and Peter re-entered the boat, and as soon as they did, the wind died down. The storm was over, and the sea became calm. The disciples, who had witnessed the entire sequence, now fell to their knees in worship, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." The story of Peter's walk is a powerful reminder that while fear and doubt are inevitable, they do not have to be our masters. As long as our focus remains on Jesus, we have the strength to overcome even the most impossible of circumstances. The moment Jesus and Peter stepped back into the boat, the wind ceased, and the waves calmed. The disciples, who had watched the entire miraculous event unfold, were filled with a profound sense of awe. They knelt before Jesus, acknowledging him not just as a great teacher, but as the Son of God. This moment marked a turning point, not only for Peter but for all who witnessed it. The storm was no longer just a meteorological event, it was a divine classroom. The first and most important lesson is about the power of focus. For a moment, Peter was capable of the impossible because his eyes were locked on Jesus. He wasn't focused on the raging wind, the crashing waves, or the logical absurdity of his actions. His faith was a singular, unwavering laser beam directed at the source of all power. His doubt didn't begin when the storm got worse, it began the moment he looked away from Jesus and started to focus on the storm itself. This is the core of the story: when we shift our focus from our faith to our fears, we start to sink. The world is full of storms, but their power over us is directly proportional to how much attention we give them. Next, the story teaches us about the nature of doubt. Jesus' question to Peter, "Why did you doubt?" is not a harsh accusation but a gentle inquiry. It reveals that doubt is not a problem in itself, but a symptom of a deeper issue, a lack of faith. It's a human emotion, a natural reaction to the overwhelming circumstances of life. But the story shows us that doubt can be overcome. It is a choice we make. When we choose to dwell on our fears rather than on our faith, doubt takes hold. The remedy isn't a stronger boat or a calmer sea, but a deeper connection to the one who commands the sea. Finally, the story offers a powerful message of rescue and redemption. When Peter started to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me," and Jesus immediately reached out and pulled him up. There was no hesitation, no judgment. Jesus' hand was there before Peter could even be fully submerged. This acts as a profound metaphor for grace. We will all, at some point, take our eyes off the Lord and begin to sink under the weight of our fears and doubts. The story of Peter reminds us that when we cry out for help, Jesus is always there, ready to reach out and pull us from the depths. Our faith might falter, but His grace is constant. The storm on the Sea of Galilee may be a story from ancient times, but its lessons are more relevant than ever. It teaches us that faith is not the absence of fear, but the courage to act in spite of it. It's not about having a perfect life, but about keeping our eyes on the one who can make us walk on water.